Welcome to Convention Reviews. Today we'll be talking about Nekocon 2024. This is an anime convention that occurs in Hampton Roads, Virginia at the Hampton Roads Convention Center. Typically, it occurs during the last week of October to the first week of November. One thing that was unique about this year was that the convention decided to implement a VIP badge, which is quite unique considering that this convention really only pulls in about 6,000 people, which is relatively small overall. I will say that one of the unique aspects of this was that con books that were physically printed were exclusive to VIP, as well as a few other perks. I don't personally know if they really moved the needle for me or a lot of other attendees, but it was definitely a unique thing to do. One of the things I really enjoy about this convention in particular is that they put a lot of effort into their design for a lot of their rooms and con ops, among many others. They have these really fun little art signs that kind of tell people where they're at, which really is kind of a great way to put a little bit of flavor onto the convention as well. Over the weekend, the convention holds a variety of events and panels. Some are more towards creative and learning, while others are more towards cosplay and workshops for cosplay as well, which is pretty standard. But one thing I will say that does separate Nekocon from a lot of others is that it also is very gaming focused. There is a lot of LARP as well as D&D as well as other popular board games that are also played throughout the convention, which also kind of adds a unique flavor to the convention as well. One other thing I also like to point out is that Nekocon also makes a effort to also include children as well as other people into their convention as well. Two that I will point out is that they also have like a coloring room for the kids, which is a really nice touch, as well as they invite the Carolina Manga Library to also come and offer kind of a chill room to just kind of read manga, discover something new, as well as kind of have a place to kind of have between panels, which is a really nice touch to say the least. Another unique element to Nekocon is that they also pull in a handful of Itasha vehicles. These are cars that are wrapped in anime skins or themes that has become quite popular in the last couple years, to say the least. I will say that it's always fun to meet the owners of the vehicles and talk to them about like the inspiration behind their skin and what kind of got them into this aspect of the industry, which is pretty fun to say the least. It's also kind of fun because, every convention I go to, there's always a different Atashta, and, it's always fun to kind of see, what new anime theme you're going to see at, this convention. Nekocon also had quite a few high quality costumes throughout the weekend as well. I will personally say that you really can tell the craftsmanship has really gone up in the last couple of years, especially considering the group cosplays as well as just quality and design has definitely really improved quite a bit. I think one of the more interesting ones I ran across was different interpretations of characters as well. One that I found really cool was somebody was doing a Demon Slayer cosplay that the whole thing was crocheted. The particular artist told me that it took like several months to put it together, which really is kind of something that's interesting to say the least. But it's always nice to run across some classic designs as well, such as the original Gundam, as well as a lot of interpretations of Pokemon characters as well. But what really interests me at these particular conventions the most is the panel content. I will say that I really do enjoy attending these and really seeing the variety of ideas and creativity that fans and nerds are willing to bring to the table. And Nekocon definitely brought out some really fun A games, to say the least. As you can imagine, the content of panels, really varies very wildly. Some people did content that was, very mainstream, talking about stuff like Dragon Ball. Others brought some really interesting content as well, that was, I would kind of consider to be a hot take as well, such as the good, the bad, and the stupid, which, really talked about a lot of villains' plans, which was pretty interesting. But there also were a couple of interesting panels that were talking about, like, becoming an artist and like having kind of a literary book in the sense of your plans if you want to, start writing your own stories, which, also had some interesting aspects as well. But there were a few that were pretty standout in my opinion. One was talking about negativity in tourism in Japan, which was a really interesting subject to say the least, really backing it up with a lot of really interesting facts. Another featured panelist was Lex Winter, who is become a really seasoned member of the panelist scene, really offering a unique view, especially considering he ties in a lot of his unique academic approach as well as a very bolsterous style of presentation, which is always a fun thing to watch. One of the invited guests, Greg Hauser, also did an amazing job talking about ADR and working in the industry over the years, and really kind of put a interesting light on the industry that a lot of fans don't really get a chance to talk about. The main musical act for Nekocon was a band called Wagatame, a visual kei rock band from Japan. Interestingly enough, this actually was their first time internationally, at least in the United States, and it was interesting to see the fact that they'd come to a convention like Nekocon. One thing that was actually really interesting is that the band actually performed, I believe, all 3 days, with Sunday being a private concert, which was pretty cool to say the least, considering a lot of the times when guests are invited, they might only do like an hour or an hour and a half set, and that's about it. So, definitely a unique setup for Nekocon to say the least. But for me, one of the more interesting segments was the AMV contest. One thing that was really interesting to me, considering this is a relatively smaller convention, is the fact that the person running the AMV contest had mentioned that over 200 entries had come in this year for AMVs, which totaled into almost 80 hours worth of content that had to unfortunately be whittled down quite a bit. But it really was kind of interesting to see, like, kind of like the process of how to make AMVs, and also some of the runners up who just didn't quite make the final cut, which definitely was an interesting thing to say the least. But outside of the main competition, there also were a other handful of AMV related events. One of the more funny examples of this is they played AMV Hell, which is a long running tradition in the fandom where basically it's kind of this like anime memes kind of put together into a giant snippet reel. It's really a fun group watch project, and honestly, it's really fun to see kind of like the kind of like bonkers humor people have. Now, this event is also broken into a PG-13 event as well as a After Dark 18 plus event. Both of them have their own unique flavors of humor, but definitely worth watching if you have a chance to check this out. Overall, Nekocon is a really fun event to go to sort of late in the year, especially a little bit post that Halloween, and really is a great way to kind of have kind of a low key kind of experience at the Anime Con. Once again, if you've attended this convention, please let me know and tell me what your experiences are. I'd love to hear it. Once again, this is Convention Reviews signing off.